Hello, hello, hello. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me alright? I hope so. I'll test later my sound check before I edit the video. How's it going, you guys? Hope you're having a great end of your week. Today's lighting might be a little bit slight off because we're having a bit of a rainy day. I think it's gonna be... So the lighting is essentially the same that I use in every video, but you can clearly see that's darker. So anyways, apologies for that. Today's video, we're gonna take a break from the super intense, like big strategic and professional stuff. We're gonna talk about something mildly related to professional, but a little bit more light, which is how can you learn French? More specifically, how did I learn French during the COVID pandemic in 2021, and how you can basically replicate the same strategy, take it and improve it to make your own learning super fun. So let's get started. Okay, so all you have to do is, you know that cartoon from Dexter's Laboratory, where Dexter had I think a French test, or he wanted to get with some girls. So what he did was he picked up on this cassette audio ages ago, and he slept through the night with that. Okay, I'm just gonna try to put it in the video. And yeah, the next morning he was like, omelette du fromage, all the way, and then all the girls were over him, and yeah. So basically that's not what you have to do. What you have to do, well, it helps a lot if you can travel to an French-speaking country, right? Maybe if you're in Europe or if you are in the States, you have certain accessibility to something like that, Before I learned French, I did went to France a couple of times. I went with my ex-girlfriend a couple of years ago, and then I also went with my mom and my brother when they first came to Spain and visit me. And yeah, that was cool, but I didn't learn much. I was mainly focused on not getting lost and try to see as much as possible, pretty much tourism 101. The only words I think I learned were merci, and back then I didn't say it like that. I was like mercy, like any foreigner will say it. So yeah, it was super embarrassing. Now I know better, okay? Now I am super educated. But back then I was, so I didn't even care. And also what happened was, because I recognized it was kind of hard to get the authentic accent, the flavor, the l'épicage. So that part, so because of that, I acknowledged that, but I didn't quite acknowledge that. I was like, okay, I hate French. French is not even that cool. So it's not even, it's not even worth it. Why should I even bother? I mean, English is good enough. I can speak Spanish as well. That gives me at least half the world accessibilities in terms of communication. Who cares? I couldn't have been more arrogant. You see, that's just young me talking. Then in COVID, I was working as a backend developer. I was finishing my university degree, right? We were all forced to stay at home, locked indoors for the whole, 6 months period. Blink of an eye. Suddenly it was June. Still remember that, or maybe it's foggy, but I remember waking up. Oh shit, it's June. So basically I was bored. I was bored to death, and I made learning French my new personality, and that's what I did. And seriously, I was just, after doing my chores and cooking, and also playing a lot of video games, I will tell you, it was super intense. I said, okay, what is something that I could do that I wouldn't do under normal circumstances, and that is just gonna give me a skill, right? What could I learn? Could I learn another programming language? Could I learn some, I was even looking into trading back then. But I also was curious about languages, and I came across a video of some polyglot. I don't remember who exactly. Polyglot was saying okay, yeah, you can structure it in a way. You can just learn the basic words of a language. Basic words of a language turn to be it'll visualize it. It's more of a solar system, right? So you have the sun would be the words that you absolutely use every day. For example, English is or is or are, and the words that you use pretty much in every sentence. That's the core. And then as you go further up, in the orbits, you have more complicated, elegant, precise words, but you don't use that much. You don't need to know all the words, at least at the beginning. In terms of being able to communicate with others, as long as you're, let's say, you have the sun and Venus, maybe Earth, okay? So you don't need that much. You don't need to reach I don't want to say Uranus in terms of the scale, or Pluto even, right? To get the full proficiency, I think you can communicate clearly if you get that Mercury, Venus, even sweet spot Earth level. Yeah, it's basically something that you can aim for, and when you put it like that, then you can like, okay, I just need to study some vocab, get the hearing, you know, some more or less sorted. And so I started my journey with Duolingo. So I did Duolingo for pretty much like 3 months, but like non-stop. I was obsessed with that, and they have made the app so that once you start and you have like a little bit of like initiative, the guy won't let you go. You got the birds asking, hey, where's your points of the day? Have you logged in yet? I am watching you sleep. So you're like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta focus, I just got, you know, I keep climbing. And then you also compete with other people in like a ranking weekly board. So that's pretty, you know, it's people like me, we thrive on that. I guess many of you. So if you combine all that, you're like, okay, and you keep going and you learn, but it becomes repetitive quite fast. So from there, and I think this was like the game changer, what I did was I pivoted to YouTube in French. I was like starting to see some topics that I cared and I knew a little bit of already, but in French. And the game changer was when I also started watching some movies in Netflix that I had already watched without any subtitles, right? So I just like put in the French. Well, at the beginning, yes, I'll be honest, maybe I put some subtitles in English. Then I switched the subtitles to French, but the good thing is I already had seen them, so I had the context and I was able to develop this ear, just like kids do, right? It's the method that babies, you know, they do, and everybody ends up speaking just fine. So I figured, okay, why do I reinvent the wheel? I only cared about reaching this communicative level. Right now it's quite different because I'm, you know, trying to get the professional level. You have to get certified, you have to prove your grammar knowledge and, you know, all of that, conjugation and boring stuff. But back then I was like, okay, I noticed that the French subtitles with the audio didn't match. More often than not, there was like it wasn't an original language, right? So the subtitles and the actual audio translation didn't have to match. So that became really annoying to me because I was like hearing something, but then I was reading something else, and I was like, this is just confusing. So I'll just remove the subtitles and I'll just, you know, see what I can get. Okay, believe it or not, it wasn't that painful. I had an advantage because I knew English already, and English nowadays has been very French influenced. There's some research that 46% of the English vocabulary has some French influence, or at least some French equivalent, because you can also get the same, allegedly have the same words in the Germanic version, which are, you know, more authentic, or Germanic, whatever. But that's one. And then the other one was that I also have a native Latin language as my mother tongue. So that part was like it came in clutch, right? So not necessarily the same accent, the same pronunciation, intonation, words, but the way that you conjugate, the way that you structure, let's say, nouns and verbs and past tense, or all of this, right? I'm not a grammar expert, please forgive me if I sound ignorant, but that's just how I understand. So I had this advantage, but even if you don't have it, French is one of the easiest languages to pivot, simply and solely for the reason that if you're an English speaking person, it's gonna be, you're like halfway there, basically, I kid you not. It gets tricky because, well, for me, always it's been easier to read it and to speak it than to like listen to it, right? And writing, that's been actually the part that I need to improve on. The beauty of that is that you can use pretty much any tool out there that you already use and sort of transform that to a learning tool, right? If you already use Netflix, you can do that. If you spend a lot of time on Reels, guess what? You can follow a couple of influencers, or you can follow some accounts of whatever topic you're already interested, let's say astronomy, right? Or let's say, I don't know, you're interested into soccer or football, right? Whatever, basketball. Follow any account that, you know, provides that type of content in that specific language, and then you become sort of used to it. Some last good tips I would give you in case you're like really serious and you're trying to make it as convenient as possible and as easy as possible and as fun as possible, as engaging. So that part is for me also key. So you can switch the languages of your, like, say, your cell phone or your computer to that of the one that you're trying to learn. You can use Quora. If you use Quora, if you like reading, let's say you use Reddit or Quora or even X, Twitter. I just want to end up saying that this can apply to any language that you want to learn. Again, for me, French made the most sense because after I realized, okay, I already have like halfway there, I might as well just go all the way. And so, what are my credentials? Oui, je suis pas sûr que j'ai des credentials déjà parce que car je jamais avais étudié dans l'école des langues. Non, je te peux dire que c'est vraiment très intéressant et amusant d'essayer d'apprendre une langue, même si vous faites beaucoup des erreurs, des faux, je sais pas. Donc, voilà, je vous dirais que ça c'est un projet, un petit projet très cool, non? Un petit défi pour vous, pour votre amis. Si vous faites ça, éventuellement, vous logrerez ton objectif. Et voilà. Ça c'est la vidéo pour aujourd'hui. J'espère que vous l'avez. I don't know how to say enjoy, but yeah, you get the point. A lot of of language, keywords are still missing there. Même, vous avez déjà écouté l'intention de cette vidéo. J'espère que tu vas bien pour le week-end. Yeah. Enfin. Et donc voilà, en voyant la semaine prochaine. À bientôt.